Hines. So please introduce yourself. What do you do here at Bethesda?
I'm the Vice President of PR and Marketing for Bethesda, and I work on all of our games and have since back to Morrowind and before.
So since when are you here with Bethesda?
This is my 16th year at E3 for Bethesda.
16th? Oh, then you got it all covered, right?
Yeah, I've been here a long time.
Most beloved games that we play in our channel that people love is doing Skyrim. So it was this huge success, and I think that the mod community is always this key to getting the game to live longer. You know, this 4 years now since Skyrim was out, and it's still people still comment. Oh, come on. Where is the Skyrim? Continue to play Skyrim, because you know we value the games that we play, and they want us to keep playing it because it still lives on. It's so huge, and I didn't finish the game yet. So how do you see this? I know that Fallout franchise has its own thing, but how do you see this coming now to Fallout 4?
Well, I mean, it's pretty exciting. You know, as Todd announced at the Microsoft press conference, that we are going to be bringing PC mods to the console. It's coming first to the Xbox One, but we'll also going to be working to bring it to the PS4 as well.
It's not confirmed yet for PS4.
Well, I mean, look, it's not a system that exists right now for either console. It's something we're having to figure out with them and make work, because it's a pretty complex thing we're doing, allowing somebody to take a mod that they've created on the PC and add it to the console, because mods, you can change vast amounts of stuff in the game, and so there's security issues as far as what people are putting onto the console and so forth.
And you have to take care of the naked mods, right?
and all of that stuff, right? So we are going to be working with everybody. We do want it to be a feature that's available on all platforms eventually. But there's work to be done, and quite honestly, all of that work is going to take place once we finish the game. We need to get the game out this year, and then sometime next year we'll be releasing the ability to play with the mods. As you mentioned, mods on Skyrim are hugely popular, but if you look at all the people who bought Skyrim, it's only a small fraction that have ever played with mods. And we want to make sure that that's something that's available to our entire audience, because it is such a great experience, and right now it's only something PC folks can do. So with Fallout 4, being able to download mods that you see and you like on a console, I think is going to open up a whole new world of possibility for fans.
To anyone who loves post-apocalyptic universe, I mean, I am the Mad Max generation, and now Mad Max was just revived gloriously on the movies, and that's a big thing. I know from the other Fallout games, it was always you had these Easter eggs of classic movies, and you had the even Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy references and all the nerd stuff. So what can we expect of this, the influence of the general post-apocalyptic world coming into Fallout 4?
Well, I mean, as you said, post-apocalyptic setting has become really popular in entertainment. There's the Mad Max film, which was just unbelievable. It's so fantastic. Even stuff like Walking Dead, games that are set in the world after it's kind of been messed up, destroyed, taken over by zombies, whatever. Fallout is a very unique take on that, because it's this iconic 1950s Americana and their vision of this future, and that becomes a reality, and then that's what gets blown up. So, it's things like Vault Boy here that give it a different tone and a different take.
It had its own identity.
And so, I think some of the Fallout games did more or less of it than others. I think with Fallout 3, we tried to be a little bit more careful about staying within the box of what was known in this world and not pulling references necessarily to pop culture things that, well, why would you be referencing this movie or this book that probably didn't exist in this alternate timeline? But there's so much that you can have fun with from that world of the 1950s. If you saw our showcase, even things like in your Pip-Boy, you can find holotapes, and usually holotapes just provided like audio information. You'd hear a recording of somebody, but you can find holotapes that allow you to play video games. So there's things like Red Menace, which is basically like the sort of threat of communist version of Donkey Kong, right? With this big, crazy communist guy, and you're climbing ladders and jumping stuff that he's throwing at you. Like it's, so things like that allow you to have fun with that world, and like you're playing a video game in a video game. With this 1950s like threat of communism overtones to it. So it's kind of fun, and it's funny, and it fits well in the Fallout world. And so things like that, I think, are stuff we want to look to explore and bring to the world that give it its own sort of unique flair and its own unique take on post-apocalyptic.
Cool. And when you sit at a meeting at the beginning of a project like this, you know it's going to be a huge project. You know that people have high expectations, and Fallout has been like this huge franchise already for many years. How do you take the next step? What is your first concern about, not just updating the graphics, but bringing a whole new experience to the player?
I think one of the things, and Todd Howard and his team have spoken about this for the last decade and a half that I've worked with them, which is every time they make a game, they really try to start over. They don't start with any assumptions going into the next game to say, well, it has to have this or it has to have that. Now, I'm generalizing. There's some certain things that like are true, and they're rules that can't be broken. But they don't come in and say, well, all of the combat has to be real time only, or you can only play in first person. Or if you remove all of those basic assumptions and start from scratch, like, look, what makes the best game? And maybe the assumptions that you would have made would have kept you from pushing the boundaries of trying something new. So, in the case of the way that world building works. If you had said, well, you can own a house and you can own it in all of these different places, they started from a more fundamental level, which is like, well, should you be able to house? Like, well, what if instead of buying a house that already exists, what if you built your own house? Well, how would that work? Well, what if all of the items in the world were made of raw materials, and you could break those down for the raw materials and then use them to build your own house again? Like, well, how would that work? Like, are you leaving the game, or are you in the game? You know what I mean? Like, so that's how you get to that point, because you haven't come in with the basic assumption of like, okay, the player has to be able to own a house. Because if you start with that, maybe you never get to the point of thinking, well, maybe they shouldn't own a house. Maybe they should be able to build their house instead. So by starting at scratch and being willing to take chances and throw out things that maybe they didn't think worked, or try something new that maybe it worked fine in the last game, but they think there's a better version out there. I think that's how you get to the point where you're pushing boundaries and trying new things that really allow the games to evolve, and not just from Fallout 4 over Fallout 3, but Fallout 4 over Skyrim, and Skyrim not just from Oblivion, but Skyrim from Fallout 3, that it's not just the next evolution within that franchise, but in their games as a whole, and things that they tried in Skyrim that they like and want to bring a version of to Fallout, or things they want to do completely differently because it doesn't work or it doesn't feel right.
Because you always have those kinds of players that they know the franchise. They didn't know it before. I know a lot of guys that didn't know anything about Elder Scrolls before Skyrim. So Skyrim was big, and then they came to know the game at Skyrim. So are you prepared to introduce this whole new experience to a new player that has never played Fallout before?
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the success of Skyrim, was that game stood on its own. It didn't require you to have played Oblivion to know what was going on. You didn't need to have played their last game, Fallout 3, to have an appreciation for it, that it was a game that stood on its own and could be appreciated on its own merits, and Fallout 4 is being made in the same way. We don't expect that you've played Skyrim. We don't even expect that you've played a Fallout game. We want to make something that fits within Fallout, and if you are a Fallout fan, you see all kinds of references and hints and references to things that you can appreciate, right? The first time you see the Brotherhood of Steel, like, that's an exciting moment for you. But it's also still cool to somebody who doesn't know who the Brotherhood of Steel is. Like, I don't know who the Brother of Steel is, but that guy looks like a badass, and like, right? So it works on both levels, and you can do it so that it appeals to both audiences, that the folks who have all that inside knowledge feel like they're getting a little bit extra out of it. They're getting like Easter eggs and references, but it doesn't detract from somebody who hasn't played the game before and doesn't know who that is or what that's a reference to. Like something like dog meat, right? Like you don't have to have played the previous games and know that dog meat's a thing to know that having a dog as a companion is just cool.
Right.